Tuesday was the day Chuck Schumer was pumped and primed and even giving Dr. Fauci some coaching advice before his big Senate debut. And Rand Paul stepped up to the plate, and that was all she wrote. Senator Rand Paul took the opportunity in the Senate hearings with Dr. Fauci and other so-called health experts regarding our response to the coronavirus, the shutdown, the quarantine, and what we ought to do moving forward. And Rand Paul basically said what many of us have been saying for weeks, and it was great to hear it come out of the mouth of one of our national leaders so that it could make national headlines.
Fits all, that we're going to have a national strategy and nobody's going to go to school is kind of ridiculous. We really ought to be doing it school district by school district. And as much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision.
The senator then took to Fox News to explain why he did what he did, why he said what he said, and it was absolutely spot on.
You said that it was, pointed to say to him, I don't think you're the end all. Do you think he's gotten puffed up or has too much attention or we're leaning on him too much?
I don't question Dr. Fauci's motives. I think he's a good person. I think he wants what's best for the country, but he's an extremely cautious person. And I don't think any of these experts are omniscient. I think that they have a basis of knowledge, but when you prognosticate about the future and when you advocate for things dramatic and drastic, like closing all the schools, you should look at all the information. So the real question I asked him was, are you aware of the mortality among children? And he is, but the mortality is exceedingly low, close to zero in the age group 0 to 18. Very, very low. So should we say all of these kids 0 to 18 don't go to school even though their mortality is so low? No, I think we ought to make that part of our decision-making process, but we really need to have competition among the experts, because we had experts, particularly that guy Ferguson over in England, saying it's going to be 2 million, best case a million. Well, this guy has gotten everything wrong for the last couple of decades. He predicted mad cow disease would kill 136,000 and 177 people died. So we have to take with a grain of salt these experts and their prognostications. The future is very uncertain, but turning down and closing the entire economy has been devastating. That's a fact.
Some people may have forgotten, others may not even have known. Rand Paul is a doctor. Rand Paul has had coronavirus. Rand Paul, after he got over coronavirus, then volunteered his time at an area hospital and helped the healthcare workers on the front lines dealing with this. What has Dr. Fauci done besides give press briefings and espouse his knowledge that he knows this and he knows that? In fact, a group of doctors in California kind of called him out on that and said, maybe a very smart man. No one is questioning his intellectual ability or capacity. He certainly is surrounded by a team of scientists that they have no doubt are working on vaccine, medication, etc. But he is basing all of his decisions on models and things in front of a computer screen that he's looking at, rather than actually getting out among the people and actually treating patients. Boom, boom, and boom. Now, of course, the senator being gracious to the doctor, saying that he thinks he's a good man, etc., etc., etc. Well, some of us don't think he's a good man. Some of us really have connected the dots, and I understand that the senator was wise not to get into all of that, because that would have become the headline, that would have become the narrative, that would have been a side issue if you start dealing with Dr. Fauci's past, his connection to Wuhan, China, his connection to Bill Gates, and the fact that he stands to make a 50% royalty off of vaccine. Put that to the side. Rand Paul did this absolutely perfect. Deal with the fact that, doctor, you're not the only health expert that's got an opinion on this. You're not the only person that we need to be hearing from. You should not be the be-all, end-all, the final word, the final yay or nay. And we need to hear from some other medical experts, including those who disagree with you, those who have other ideas how we ought to move forward. And I thought Rand Paul was absolutely brilliant when he said, why do we keep following the advice of people who have been wrong at every single turn? Their numbers were wrong, their projections were wrong, and now you even have a break in the ranks between Fauci and Scarf Woman regarding the CDC. So one thing even the mainstream media and conservative media did agree on the result of yesterday's hearings was the fact that the representative for the CDC looked totally inept and really, we're listening to this person? Are you kidding me? When you have Scarf Lady, Dr. Birx, saying, well, we can't trust any of the numbers coming out of the CDC because they're overinflated by at least 25%. If they're acknowledging it could be off by 25%, it's probably closer to 40 to 50% that it's off, and maybe even higher. Because we know that starting in mid to late March, they were directing hospitals around the country listed as COVID. If they've got any type of viral respiratory infection, listed as COVID. So then that meant anybody that was then listed that way who then died, it was listed as a COVID death. Maybe it was actual pneumonia. Maybe it was just the regular common flu. Maybe it was acute bronchitis. But it all got listed as COVID. So we don't know that our numbers are really that off, that skewed as far as, oh, we got to stay and shut down. We got governors talking about keeping their states closed into the fall. Now, don't tell me there's not a political agenda behind that, because there certainly is. But they're talking about these numbers and we've got to be safe. You know, I hate to make these kind of analogies because immediately some of you will get upset. But Nazi Germany, this was how they controlled the masses. We're doing this for your safety. We're doing this for your safety. Because let's be honest, fear drives results. Fear drives action. Today, there was a counterpunch to what happened yesterday that I haven't heard anyone else yet connect the dots. We heard from the financial sector, the financial advisors to our economy, talking about that we are in the worst recession since World War II. And if it gets prolonged any longer, it could be years and decades before we pull out of it. Now that's going to create angst and fear among people. That's the counterpunch here. There is more to be considered here than just the physical results of a virus, which, again, Dr. Fauci never ever puts into any type of clear context for anyone that 99% of the people who will get this will survive. 99%. Over 90% of the people who have died from coronavirus were either extremely old or extremely old with serious health issues, or if they were younger than that, they had serious health issues. Which meant if you have serious enough health issues, anything from the common cold to the flu can literally push that over the edge. So kudos to Rand Paul. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for, with clarity, setting a definitive narrative. We have to move forward. We're to the point now, I think both sides realize there are those that are just driven by this fear. And if you listen to Fauci, for crying out loud, we can't reopen anything until there's never a runny nose left on the planet. You know, Rand Paul says he's overly cautious. No, he's a guy selling fear because he's got a vaccine he wants to sell. And he and Bill Gates, they're about control. Don't think this is just conspiratorial stuff. Start connecting the dots. Look how they sit on the boards for each other's organizations. They advise each other. They are in this up to their eyeballs on best scenario is they're just trying to get rich. Worst scenario, they are trying to assuage a control and exert an influence the likes of which we have never seen in our lifetime. Now, that all said, there are other factors here, and we've been talking about that, not just economic factors. There are psychological aspects. There are spiritual aspects. There are emotional aspects. And all of this needs to come into the decision-making process now. It is time to reopen for people's mental health, for people's security, for a sense of normalcy, for the safety, and I'm going to go there, the safety of children. You shut down every school, every community sports program, every outlet and avenue for kids. When is the media going to start screaming out and demanding to know, well, how do we know how many kids are actually trapped, imprisoned, quarantined with an abuser? Bum, ba-dum, bum. How many kids are being sexually assaulted and mistreated right now? Because there are no teachers, no coaches, no one from the outside. None of those safety nets are in place now. I want an answer to that. I can't get a single news outlet to even carry that as an editorial. That ought to tell us something. As we move forward, we're seeing now that the movie industry, well, I should say the theater owners, want to target the first weekend in July to start reopening. The problem there is Hollyweird is part of the agenda driving the fear, so are they going to have any content? And I read somewhere today that, well, people aren't going to feel comfortable going back en masse to movie theaters until there's a vaccine. That's becoming a narrative with a lot of things. Oh, they're not going to go to sports games until there's a vaccine. They're not going to go on vacation until there's a vaccine. You're not going to see people on that. That may be what people are saying, and that may even be what they indicate when asked in a survey question. But one thing we can be sure of in this country, we watched it with the governor's overreaction. I call it the monkey see, monkey do. Each governor had to try to outdo the other governor to show that, number one, they care, and boy, they can take control. And some of them were on little power trips. But as soon as Georgia said, we're opening, all of a sudden some other governors got some guts too. You're watching now even Governor Cuomo in the People's Republic of New York having to acquiesce and say, well, upstate New York is really no different than Iowa. I guess we could reopen upstate, you think? In fact, May the 15th, a lot of places in New York are going to begin the reopening process. Now again, he's your typical Democrat, and he's a libloon, and he will drag this out and make it as painful as possible, but he's moving in a direction that California's not even moving in yet. Because see, once one governor starts opening, then the pressure's on. The dominoes begin to fall. You see some movie theaters open. Hollywood sees people willing to go and even pay to see movies they've already seen just because they want the experience of going back to the theater, sitting someplace beside their living room, eating some popcorn that they didn't have to make themselves, and watch how quickly Hollywood starts firing up the machine. They've got things sitting in their vaults they haven't released yet. They've got projects that were already underway that came to a grinding halt, that you don't even need a full movie crew and a team of actors. You just need the director and a couple of editors alone in an editing lab, and they can start cranking some new material out. It's coming. It's coming. We just have to get it started. And let's get real. When Major League Baseball starts the 1st of July, how long are we going to watch baseball to an empty stadium when people are going to say, I want to be there? And they aren't going to worry about if there's a vaccine or not. The more we keep pushing back, the more we keep forcing the issue. Now, at some point, here's my hope, that we look back on all this a year from now, and some people, even if they want to make fun of us and say, you worried about that little guy Fauci, and look, he's nowhere to be seen. He never did get his vaccine. He never did get the Congress to get behind mandating that every single human being on the planet get it. See, you were wrong. No. We keep pushing back. Keep pushing back. And as things reopen, normalcy will follow. Because people do keep talking about, oh, the new normal is we won't ever again have full restaurants. Yes, we will. Maybe not the first week, but yes, we will. Oh, we'll never see people in church again. Yes, we will. I posted something on my personal Facebook page today. It's a picture of a group of people on a plane, all sitting there in their masks, and it asks a simple question. So if people can get on an airplane and sit next to each other for 2 or 3 hours, and we have figured out how to do that safely, explain to me again why people can't go to church? Yeah, exactly. That said, kudos again to Rand Paul. Great job pushing back. Let that become the headline. Let that become the narrative. Let other people begin to say, hey, why is this one guy becoming the be-all, end-all, face of it all? Boom. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Spread it around on your social media platforms. I would greatly appreciate that. That's how we grow this channel, because YouTube certainly isn't going to advertise us. I thank you for joining with me and sticking with me through this fight to get you the truth. The whole truth ain't nothing but the truth. Because remember, this is the triumphant return of truth, justice, and the American way.